Go ahead.
If I may, Mr. President, I'd like to speak on a little bit of what Tom had spoke of, and I don't know if, and I know it's true what he's saying, or at least that's the word out there in regards to the 57 and the planting of the shrubs and the lights. I can just see accidents. Those lights aren't going to stand up too long, because it won't take much to go off the side of the road a little bit. There goes a light pole. And I'm taking flack on it as well because of the fact of council and council members had to approve what they were putting in, other than the fact of doing things the way ODOT, of course, wanted done for safety and all that. And I don't know about the rest of you, if you've heard from anybody, but I sure have, and definitely he's 100% right on the issue. It's ridiculous what we're planting out there and how close we're planting them, and think they're going to be, being able to mow, cut down the light post. I'm telling you, they're going to be wiped out unless you're putting a wall in there that I'm not aware of, like on 480, to protect them, because, I mean, just a glance off the road, and you shouldn't, but you know how everybody's on the phone and everything, or a slippery or wet day, you do a little sliding or a little offside of that, or somebody slides you over, you can't help but miss these poles, and they're going to be laying more down than up. And then, of course, the maintenance of those are falling on us, I understand, because Edison will not be, they're not their type of poles, and they're not their poles. But there's a big chunk of waste of money on that so-called, if you may, call it doing decorative work, and it just amazes me. And every time I go down it, I talk to myself about it, so I have to say it out here. Right, you're right, Tom. And I don't know who idea it was, who thinks it had to be, but it's going to prove to be a headache down the road and a big waste of money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll be talking to you.
Okay, Mr. Stewart.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, through the Mayor. In regards to what is the reason why the prisoners can't help us cut the grass, or can we go through the county? Is that an option?
Through you, Mr. President, our Employment Labor Relations Council has apprised us that there have been, in our jurisdiction, there have been judge and court cases where the cities that have labor contracts similar to ours, when they've used volunteers, when the city has organized volunteers or prisoners, there was one or more lawsuits where the appropriate municipality lost and had to compensate employees who otherwise would have done the work at an overtime rate, time and a half, for the time done by volunteers and prisoners. So it's conceivable we could do it and win in such a case, but the court precedents suggest we would lose such an event. I might remind council and others, City of Cleveland, you may recall, it was about 5 years ago. They Mayor Jackson's predecessor, I forget now, I'm sorry.
White.
But,
White.
Campbell, thank you. She had an appeal in the downtown to ask neighboring businesses who had their business adjoining public trash receptacles to dump those trash receptacles, and that went on for nearly a year. The labor union associated with it challenged it. Judge awarded time and a half back pay to all the city employees in those bargaining units for all the time estimated that it took the residents or the business owners to dump those trash receptacles. So, and you hear such things in other cities during these times. You'll hear one mayor or another say that we're going to do this, we're doing that, and to save money. It sounds really nice, makes nice headlines, and gets people all excited, but they usually end up paying time and a half, double time, and worse times for such bravado. And you don't hear that from here. We look at these things very thoroughly and make educated, smart choices, and you can't do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Bullocks.
Thank you, Mr. President. For Mrs. Hurst, if she's still here, she brought up the longevity. That is going to be discussed. I think we had a councilman referred that to Finance Committee, and that will be discussed on June the 8th. Finance Committee at 7 o'clock. If you'd like to attend, you'd be welcome with your input. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Gertner?
This Thursday, we still have the public hearing on the CDBGR, correct?
Yes.
So, and that's at 6 or 7? What's that?
I think it's at 6. 7. No, is it 7 or?
It should be, it's probably 7. Kevin says it's 7, so it's 7. So just remind the public. So just remind Carol Schicker, 7 o'clock. So just remind the public that the CDBGR public hearings on this Thursday, 7 o'clock. So,
Okay.
so thank you.
Thank you. Anything else come for the council? Yeah, Mayor Grace?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. A number of things were mentioned during the public commentary and others. A few things. One on Route 57, as an example, it was described that approximately $1.5 million on landscaping. There's approximately $600,000 is what the budget on landscaping is. And you know, relative to comments critical of the landscaping as well as the lighting, about half of the project did not have lighting. Now all of the project will have street lighting, and yes, some of it, on occasion, as it happens on roadways, cars will hit light poles. This happens nearly on a daily basis somewhere in our city or another. And in most cases, there's a police report, and the insurance company of the party that knocked over the pole pays and replaces or fixes whatever the case may be. There are times that doesn't happen, and the city has to absorb that. So that's generally how that plays out. But the whole intention of street lights is to make it for a safer path and to avoid those accidents that might otherwise happen with diminished visibility in the evenings. But as it relates to kind of cursory general statements that are critical of landscaping and lighting and other things that, in this case, Route 57 will make for a more pleasant ride and a better image of our city. I think it speaks to two different camps that are at play here. There's those who advocate that the city does the absolute bare minimum, do the absolute bare minimum, whatever is the least to get by, and be thankful for just getting by. That's the camp that I would argue is largely advocating against such measures. I and others advocate that the city of Elyria, a winning strategy for Elyria to be a thriving, desirable city, a city of choice, a choice where residents want to live, where business owners want to locate their businesses. So we need to go more than the bare minimum. We need to put a good face forward. Just like all of you here, everyone in this room, there are those that take extra care of their property because it gives pride of ownership, and that's how we have to look at our city, in my opinion, and others that subscribe to that opinion. That if Elyria is going to be a city of choice, we need to put a good face on our city, and particularly as it relates to Route 57, when 80% of the money for such matters is paid for by the federal government, and you see it in cities throughout Greater Cleveland and across America that take advantage of such opportunities to present a positive image. And I think it's money well spent, and it will pay dividends many times over time.